the US has reopened its embassy in Havana, bringing to an end decades of hostility between the two nations. US President Barack Obama and his Cuban counterpart Raul Castro announced in December moves to normalize diplomatic relations between the two countries. In a flag-raising ceremony to reopen the US Embassy in Havana, US Secretary of State John Kerry called on Cuba to become more democratic. "We remain convinced the people of Cuba would be best served by a genuine democracy, where people are free to choose their leaders, express their ideas, practice their faith," Mr. Kerry told those gathered on the embassy grounds and millions of islanders watching and listening live. Rayline, why now? Supporters of Alan Gross at a rally in Lafayette Park on 3 December 2013. Efforts to get Alan Gross released had been going on for years. The Obama administration had been trying to bring about the release of Alan Gross for years. In early 2013, President Obama authorized secret talks to go ahead in Canada and the Vatican. A major factor driving the talks was Alan Gross's deteriorating health. If his continued detention was a major sticking point in relations between the two countries, his death in a Cuban jail would have been an almost insurmountable obstacle. In August, his lawyer said that he did not know if Mr. Gross would survive for much longer. Pressure was therefore mounting on the Cuban government to free him before his health took another turn for the worse. Some analysts also think the Cuban government was spurred on by the economic crisis its ally Venezuela is facing. Venezuela and its socialist president, Nicolas Maduro, have given the Cuban government economic and ideological support for years. But falling oil prices have hit Venezuela hard, and may have raised fears in Havana that Venezuela may not be able to be as generous in the future. A series of editorials calling for a lifting of the US embargo on Cuba published in the New York Times also signaled a shift among US opinion makers and their desire for a softening of the US stance on Cuba. Rayline, is this US admission of defeat? Barack Obama arrives in the White House Cabinet Room on 17 December 2014. President Obama said the current policy had had little effect. President Obama did not mince his words in his speech. He said that decades of isolation had failed to accomplish our enduring objective of promoting the emergence of a democratic, prosperous, and stable Cuba. While he conceded that the policy had been devised with the best of intentions, he said it had had little effect. But the president also made sure to couch the policy change in positive terms, saying that we are renewing our leadership in the Americas. Raul Castro sounded a cautious note, stressing that there were still profound differences between the two countries. He delivered his speech in a very deliberate manner, with none of the triumphalist notes one could have expected on the day when US president announced a major shift in relations with the small communist-run island. He also mentioned his brother Fidel Castro a number of times, implying that the talks had been given the approval of the leader of the 1959 Cuban Revolution.